this computer. Okay, perfect. All right. Hi, Saujanya. Good evening. Saujanya is here. Yeah. You're on mute, maybe. Okay. All right. I think since you all watched the recording, right, it doesn't make sense to have pauses here. So what I think is for one hour or at least half an hour, we'll have a straight session so that you can watch it again and follow it. And then we can have a follow-up questions if they are long questions. If they're short questions, we can reply it during the session. So what I've decided for the fairness of everybody here, right? Because Rumana and Saujanya are new, Mansa and Jyoti know about it. Mansa and Jyoti probably want to ask questions about Docker and Kubernetes and Maven. And if I start going that direction, Rumana and Saujanya are going to be completely lost. So what I want to do is I want to complete the whole picture, how everything ties together. And then we'll start deep diving into whichever platforms we have to deep dive into, multiple sessions. Okay, so Saujanya and Mansa have not accepted the request. Please go and accept the request that you got on GitHub or in your email. And you should be able to see these two repositories now. The older repositories, which was under my account, I have deleted. So if I go back and if I go here, there's no repositories under my account. But if I go to organization, I've invited, okay, everybody has accepted, looks like Mansa has accepted, Saujanya has not accepted yet. Saujanya, can you go ahead and accept? There's one pending request for you. Okay, what I have done here with this repositories is, if you go, so for Maven, anything that we do, I want to keep under Maven, and that's why I have created as a multi-module. So multi-module project looks like this. You have multiple modules that are being created. Each module has a POM of itself over here. So if I go to service, it has a POM, so on and so forth. And if I go to web, there's a POM. What I want you to do is go to Maven and clone that repository on your local. Can everybody do that?
Yes, Samir. Samir, I accepted, right? Can you please check?
Sure, let me check now. Yeah, looks like you didn't accept yet. It's still in pending. You're talking about yesterday's, maybe. This is fresh. This is for the organization.
Okay.
So Jyoti and Mansa, you can probably give guidance what you did to accept it. Did you get an email that you followed through? Jyoti or Mansa, are you there?
Yes, Samir, just we got the email.
Okay.
Yeah, there is a link, we click there.
Right. So what I want you to do is go ahead and clone Maven. And there's one piece that I wanted to show you. Notice here in the repository that the target folder has been committed. Technically, the target folder should never get committed because it is a folder that is generated during the build. Okay, there are some of the terms that I'll be taking which you'll not follow outright. For example, you'll think what is being generated, so on and so forth. If you've never worked with Maven, just hold on, don't ask the question, because as we move forward, you'll get a clarity as to what is happening there. So just hold on to your questions, park them, into your notepad or whatever, and we'll come to those questions. So now what I want to do is I never want to commit the target folder. So Mansa or Jyoti, you'll have to tell me, what do I have to do to ensure that those folders are not committed?
Yeah, we can use git ignore.
Okay, so what I will do is I will add a git ignore at the top level over here.
Samir, for some reason, I could not able to accept it. I got the link. I clicked on accept button.
Yeah.
After that, that's it. I don't know.
What does it say?
It redirected to my account.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you log into your GitHub account, Saujanya, you should see accept invitation. And
I didn't get that one.
Do you? I can send you a new one if you want to.
Yes, please.
And one more thing, Saujanya. So it won't be visible. The repository won't be visible under your username. You'll have to click the
No,
drop down and
she has not even accepted. That's what I
Okay.
can see here.
Okay.
Cancel invitation.
Yeah, we got 2 emails, not the accept link. In another email, we got join Lotus.
Yeah. So let
Oh,
me.
is it?
Yeah, in the second
Yeah.
email.
Hold on now. Hold on now. You'll get another one. Use this one.
Okay. Okay.
SOWJI. Okay. Member. Okay. Can you check now? Okay. In the meanwhile, can everybody please clone the Maven repository?
Done,
Samir, when I tried to clone it, it is showing the error that could not create work tree directory Maven, permission denied.
Permission declined.
Yes.
Okay, let me see.
I think now I joined.
Okay, perfect. Great. Let me see if I need to do anything to.
The permission should be for all, right, Samir? Because I was able to clone it locally.
Oh, you were able to clone?
Yes.
Yeah, it's the same permission for all.
Try for me like this.
See, all 5 members can access this repository. Do you want to share maybe? Who was that, Mansa or Jyoti?
This Jyoti.
Yeah, Jyoti, go ahead and share.
Okay.
I don't think so. There is any. So, Romana, you were able to clone, right?
Yes, Samir. So I went into the DevOps training folder that we were maintaining Sandbox, and inside there I did a right click, git bash, whatever. Yeah. And from there I did git clone and gave the repository name, Maven repository name.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm in now. I can see the folders.
Yeah, Jyoti, can you please share your screen? Jyoti?
Yes, I did it.
Can you
Are
please?
you able to see the screen?
No.
Today's
Same recording. Okay. So now if I go in and look over here, there's a target folder everywhere. You see that? Right? Now, if I go in and do a git status now, well, why is this? Okay, you know what? The target folder .git ignore.
It's the one you added, right, Samir?
What's that? Yeah.
.git ignore is the one you added.
I added it and I was expecting that it should respect. I don't know why it is showing in as this. Let's see. I'm not expecting it to show me this target folders. This folder should not be shown. So what I will do is since it's a deep folder, right? You see, target is not at the root. So I'll do a */target star or star, whatever. Usually this is never a folder structure that we create. The whole reason that I'm creating it this way is so that I can have multiple Maven projects. Usually a Maven project always comes at the root. Okay, just so that, you know, I do not confuse you. Let's do git status now. This is a good one for me because, Yeah, I'm not modified. Maybe because we have deleted it.
I think we deleted the target.
Oh, you know what? See where I'm sitting. And now if you see, it is pretty much deep. Multi-module parent project core and then target and so on and so forth. So best thing is this. Let's see if this works. You can say git ignore Maven. So there should be a GitHub git ignore link that comes up first. We can pick up from here. So usually you see this is how we do target slash, but that is applicable when my whole project is at the root at the Maven. The only reason I'm creating this kind of a structure was because of training reason. And now we got into this trouble and I want to see if I can get rid of that. If not, I will bring it back to the same structure that we usually do in projects. If it works, great. That's the same thing I had tried unless I had a typo. Let me anyway go ahead and do this. Since target is already being tracked, right? That is another reason it can be. Okay, let me go ahead and delete all the target folders because it is being tracked. Again, I will delete it. Okay. This is an interesting thing actually, because I never tried to do it this way earlier. So let's delete it. Let's add it. Let's commit. Let's push. Okay, and now let's do a Maven clean package. I'm thinking the remote is already tracking package. Okay, see, this is where the problem is. The project is not directly under Maven, it is under deep, right? So what I will do is, just for the clarity, so that we don't get confused right now, I'm going to cut this out from here. I'm going to put it at the root, just so that we don't get into the deep issue. So this is how most of the projects are. Come on. Okay, here. This is how the structure is. Now, if I do a git status and do a git add dot git commit.
Probably you'll have to update the git ignore file, right? To change the structure.
I will not have to, since I don't need to update the git ignore file. That's the reason why I'm putting it in a flat structure. Because usually in any project that you go in, right, they are not going to create multiple Maven projects and put under the Maven folder like the way I was trying to do. They will always have one repository for one project. For example, in FIS, they have Connect. So Connect has 300 modules approximately. All the 300 modules are flat structured at this level. We'll come to that.
Okay.
Okay. Now, if I do this, git status, it's all good. Now I'll do Maven clean package. Remember this, right? When I'm running a Maven clean package, I have to be under a project that has a POM file to start with. Earlier, if you remember, I was standing in Maven and there was already two level folders deeper in there. The POM was not there. So it was saying it was not a Maven project. But now, since it's there, the POM file, I'll be able to do a Maven clean package from here. And what I'm expecting is, after it runs and creates a target folder, it will not allow me to commit the target folder because I have a git ignore file. That's what I'm trying to get to. Now, if I do a git status, let's see what happens. See, it doesn't say there is target folder. Now, what I'll do is I will go ahead and delete this for a second. Control X, I'll save it. Now it should show me all the target folder and the git ignore file, because git ignore file is modified. See this? Modified git ignore, and then this target folder to be added. So let's not complicate it by creating deep folders. We'll create multiple. So right now, Maven has flat structure, and this is behaving the way it should behave. I mean, I will keep this structure only for now, because this is what you're going to see when you get into an organization. So I don't want to get into the complication of defining a regex, something like this, because it is deep, and then putting something like this, multi-folders or whatever, you know, I don't want to do that. I don't want to confuse you with that right now. Okay, so I have edited back. Let's say git status, everything is back to normal. If you want, you can go ahead and do a git pull so that you have the latest changes with you, and then we'll start. Let me know once you're ready. Now coming to Maven. Usually Maven is a build tool. You can technically use for other languages too if you have to, but mostly it is for Java. Okay. In Java, I don't know if everybody is from a Java background, but in Java, if I have to define it in a very simple way, you write Java files, right? .java files, and those .java files have to be compiled. And after compiling, they have to be packaged into a jar or a war or a ER, depending on what's the type of the project. So usually in the older world, people used to do that in a manual way. And then came a new tool called Ant. If you've not heard about Apache Ant, it's fine. It is almost nearing end of life. People are still using it. It's not dead, but nobody wants to use it. People prefer to use Maven or Gradle. Okay. So what you need to know, is Ant or Maven or Gradle or Webpack or Node.js. Node.js as a build tool. Okay. Node.js also has, the whole thing is called Node.js, or Grunt or Gulp. And then this list could go on. All of this, and there's Make. All of this are build tools. Okay, what are build tools? Build tools allow you to automate certain things that you would otherwise have to do manually. Okay, so what is Maven allowing us to do over here? If you closely look at it, the structure of the project, and what I'll do is I'll open it up into Visual Studio so that you can see it well. So if I open up code dot here, you should notice, apart from all, readme.md has no significance, right? It is just a text file. It has nothing to do with Maven. Let's close this. Git ignore, you already know what it does. It tells which are the files that a remote or the origin should not track. We don't want to commit these files. That's what git ignore is, and the name it indicates, right? When you play around with Git, please ignore everything that falls into this particular pattern. Same, we saw target. Any questions on git ignore? You have followed this very well, right?
Yes, we are good.
Okay, good. Yeah, let's keep it a little bit more interactive, you know, because otherwise it becomes very difficult for me to know whether you've understood the concept or not. And we are pretty much getting to the fundamentals of concept, right? So you should tell me whether you understand. Now, if you get to pom.xml file, you probably might get overwhelmed by looking at what is in here. Okay. I would want you to spend some time later on after the session going through each one of them. But the most critical piece that I want you to show or look at is this part over here. Group ID, artifact ID, version, packaging. Okay. Group ID basically is a namespace. So if you create a folder called com, and inside folder you create a Lotus Lake, and inside Lotus Lake you create, I wanted to call it as Lotus Ops actually. Let's change that. I'm going to go in everywhere here and change it. Oh, wait. There are better ways to search and replace all, okay? I'm intentionally not doing it so that I'm not bringing in too many permutations and combinations into your learning path. So I'm doing it manually. But then you'll know that this is difficult to do. So you might ask me what is the easier way. find and replace all. Okay. Let's go back to where we were. Project object model, that's what the POM is, if you ask me what's the full form. And if I go in, I'll collapse all of these guys. I'll close this and I'll open up the parent POM. The POM, which is at the top most level, is called the parent POM in a multi-module project. Okay, a single module project is one POM and a folder where all the classes are present. For example, this one has all the classes over here, right? Java files over here. So that will be a single module, just one POM file and one folder to have your Java files in there. But this one has each multiple folder basically, right? So this is a Maven multi-module project. And this is what you'll see in Connect also, Jyoti, if you're working with FIS, right? That's what you'll see. So group ID, artifact ID, version number, we saw group ID. I told you, if you create a folder called COM, inside COM, you create Lotus Ops, and inside Lotus Ops, you create app. And you finally want to create your jar file, and the name of the jar file will be parent project dot. I mean, this is not a jar, this is a POM packaging. Okay. So now let's take a look. Let's basically do a Maven clean package, because it's better to see than hear, right? So I'll do a Maven clean package, and then you'll know what I'm talking about, this group ID. Okay, so it did all of this. And now if I go inside any one of them, if I go inside target, this was a created folder. If I go inside the generated source file or generate classes, right? Over here, so this is the class, generated source. There's nothing because we don't have a plugin for generated source. And if you see here, it is core 1.0 snapshot.jar. So where did this core name come from? Where did this 1.0 snapshot come from? If I go to the POM file of that particular project, you'd see down here, artifact ID is core, version number is 1.0. So it is core 1.0 snapshot, this one. And since we've not defined any packaging, so there's no tag called packaging over here. The default packaging is jar. That's how it picked up the jar name from. I want you to stop me and ask me a question if you do not follow it, because the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about local and local Maven repository and the remote Maven repository and a project level repository. So if you have any questions related to this, please ask me now. You don't have to worry about how it is being compiled, which plugin is being used, what are the goals. Don't worry about it. We'll talk. But from the perspective of how this name has been derived, you understood that, right?
Samir, I'm a little lost, Samir.
Okay, tell me, where are you lost?
Quickly, so you created the Maven repository that you pulled, right? You created some project, a Java project, right? With some Java class, and you pulled it here and you're trying to compile. And I think VS Code is using Maven as a build tool, and it is generating based on the POM file configuration. It is creating jar file and some additional files. So as of yesterday, I was under the impression, as we were going through the list of the softwares we installed, I thought VS Code is something to do where you can, like a terminal to interact with the GitHub. But no, I didn't know that this is also an ID.
It is an ID where you can, well, technically I would not use it for Java, but it can be used for Java also. It can be used for Python also. It can be used for Node.js also. This is a full-fledged ID. We haven't even talked about how to add additional plugins. Technically, you can add additional plugins from here. So if you see Java, there are plugins that you can install for Java. But since we are not learning Java, right, I didn't want to go there. I didn't want to talk about plugins. But what you should know is this is not only for Git. And that's why when you asked the question yesterday, right, why do we want Git to be installed when we already have VS Code? I kind of guessed it, that you're thinking VS Code is only for Git. It is not.
Right.
VS Code is a full-fledged IDE. And from the perspective of this particular training, what is going on here, right? What you have to, we haven't gone through each and every perspective of Maven. Maven is what we are discussing today, right? And we will cover it now. But what you just need to understand is there is a repository over here for you. This one here, right? Maven. There's a repository which you just clone, and I'm running some Maven command, which you don't even know what those commands are right now. So if you're at that level, that's good enough.
Okay.
What you need to do after this session is I've given instructions on how I have created that project.
Okay.
Okay. So if you want to go through this and create the project yourself in your local and then play around with it, that will give you a lot more idea about what's happening.
Okay.
Okay. So now going back, what I'm asking is the name, how it is derived. This name, you're clear about that, right?
Right.
It is being picked up from the artifact ID and the version number and the packaging. If you want, you can define the packaging by yourself. And call it as jar. But this is redundant. What I mean by that is by default, the packaging is jar. So I can go inside each and every project over here and put the packaging as jar. Save. And then service. Packaging I already did. Web app. Web app, the packaging is war because it is not a jar. It's a web project. So that's why it has it explicitly defined, because by default it is jar. Okay. Now if I run the program, it will be exactly the same effect. There should not be any difference. It will create a jar file. Okay. Now let's go to a little bit of a theory of Maven, because who all know Maven over here? Jyoti, do you know Maven? Mansa, you know Maven?
Yeah, I do have basic knowledge on Maven.
Okay, so I can come from fundamental, right? Assuming that you don't know.
Yes.
Okay, so with Maven, what it does is Maven accepts that you have some kind of a source, mostly Java source. Okay, Java source, it expects it to be in a specific folder structure. The folder structure is basically as src main Java, src test Java for test that you'll write. But we are not learning Java here, right? I mean, you should, as a DevOps, you should know the structure. So the structure is, if you see here, src main and test. See that? Main and test, and then Java and Java. After Java, there's a package, com, Lotus Lake. I mean, I could have definitely changed it to Lotus Ops, but that's fine. I don't want to do that right now because it will waste our time. Okay. So under, if you do not follow what I'm saying here, take a look at this folder. If I go to core, src, main, Java. Inside Java, there's com. Inside com, I can always go ahead and change this name. But as soon as I change this name, I will also have to change the name inside this file, which is Java file. It has a package name here, right? Com Lotus Lake app. I'll have to go and change this. But don't confuse this, because this is not a part of the whole program. You will eventually have to know this, because you're going to be compiling a Java file. And if there's a developer who makes a mistake, you should know that there's a mistake in your package name versus, but I don't want to get into that right now because that will only complicate stuff, right? So don't worry about that. What you just need to know right now from my perspective is Java source has to be in this particular format that is dictated by Maven. So it is a convention over configuration, right? So Maven says this is the convention that you have to follow to have your source in src main Java, have your test files in src test Java. Clear?
So tomorrow I decide to use a different build tool. Something from the list that you just mentioned, right? So then I have to change that structure.
So let me tell you this. All this over here, except make is a different world altogether. They are all build tools, but they are not all for Java. Ent can do Java, and Ent is basically whatever you do manually, you can automate it using that manual work using each and every command. So if I'm moving a file from folder A to folder B, there's a command to do that. But Maven is not that way. Maven, you'll see that actually. Maven basically gives you some convention. It says, put the files in the convention that I'm telling you. A lot of work that you would manually do, I will take care of that. Maven primarily comes with a very good concept called dependency management, which we've not even looked at yet. Okay, so all the dependencies, it is managing it. In Ant, all the dependencies have to be manually added. Okay, Gradle, since Gradle came after Maven, Gradle brings in all the beauty of Maven. That means if Maven was saying you should have SRC main Java, Gradle also says you should have SRC main Java. Because what Gradle knows is anybody who is coming from Maven to Gradle, they would have a structure like Maven.
Right.
So it doesn't force you to change it. Okay, all of this are UI build tools. That means your JavaScript, TypeScript, Angular, React, Vue, so on and so forth. All of this is what it is. And we will look at Node.js and all. And make is almost similar to Ant, but it basically is a command-based pattern. So things like Python or Ruby, or even can be Java projects if you have to, but then you'll have to write the Java compilation command yourself. In Maven, when we come to, you'll see that we are not writing a Maven Java compilation commands anywhere in Maven. Maven takes it by convention. Is this clear? I know I'm not giving you the whole answer, but I'm trying to keep it short so that you don't get confused.
Yes, Samir. I got more than what is required.
Okay. So now you have, again, I can add a little more of a complex over here and say, you don't always have to have SRC main Java. You could technically change this folder style completely, but then you'll have to go, since it's a convention, right? You will have to go and specify as a configuration, what is the structure of your folder? If I changed it to Samir main Java, let's say, it is not SRC, it's Samir. Maven by default doesn't know it. By default, it looks for SRC main Java. So I'll have to go and update Maven jar plugin, since it's a jar project, to define what the folder structure going to be like. Okay, since that is advanced, I don't want you to think about that right now. Just assume that it's always SRC main Java, because most of the company, nobody is going to modify that.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move forward. Let's bisect the POM file. I didn't want to spend so much time with Maven, but let's see. I don't want to even leave it halfway. So you have group ID, artifact ID, and the version number, right? Now in Maven, there are three things. Okay. There is target, which is also called local to project. So this is local to project repository. There is another concept called local repository. And then there is a third concept called remote repository. And remember one thing, okay, I'm telling you the most foundational aspects of anything that we'll touch, be it Git, be it Maven, be it Docker, the core problem that this technology is trying to solve. Everything else around that, you can always go read, look at YouTube videos, and you'll get a picture about what is happening. So it's very important, any technology you pick up, is what is the core problem that it is trying to solve. And that's what I'm trying to show you over here. Okay. If you have your laptop, these two are on your laptop. Okay. Your local project repo, which you already saw, right? Over here, you already saw that core has a target folder and it has generated the jar for me, which technically I can go and distribute to anyone and tell them, work with it. This is the workable final package. Okay. So this is what it is, local to project. You have not seen what local repository is. I should have it here. So if I go to C drive, if I go to users, if I go to my user, And if I look at .m2, .m2 is my local repository. In your machine, you probably will not even have it. You can go. Have you guys installed Maven?
Yes.
Everybody has installed. Rumana, you have installed?
You mean the repository pull, right?
No, Maven. Maven as a installation software.
No, some didn't install.
Nobody has installed, right?
No.
Okay. So what I would suggest is after this session, right now, let's not spend time on that. Maven install on Windows, let's say. You can go here, installing Apache Maven on Windows, and you can see what it's talking about. You should have a JDK. So I am assuming you have a Java home environment variable. Everybody knows what the Java home environment variable is.
Yes. We have to do that while installing JDK.
Java itself.
Yes, but some people may not do that. But if you've not done it, please define a Java home. Saujanya, do you know what a Java home environment variable is? How to define it?
No.
Okay, so to define environment variables in general anywhere, okay, in future when I talk about environment variables, you can either, if you're using Windows like what I'm using, 10 and above, you can say environment variable over here and say edit system. I want to edit the variable for your account. So edit variable for your account. Over here, if you see, I already have a folder called Java home, and it is pointing to the installation where my Java is installed. If it is showing this, then why does it show as Java 8 for me when I say Java minus version? I think there is Java 8 somewhere stuck in my path. Give me 1 second. Yeah, you see this Oracle?
That must be coming first.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm an administrator and it doesn't allow me to change it. Hold on, edit system variable. Yeah, so if you have this similar problem in every organization, right, especially FIS, this is the problem that I've seen. They always stick around with Java 8, and then usually I used to ask them to go remove it, but there are other ways to do it. So let me go ahead and delete this, say okay, say okay, say okay here, and I will have to open a new one. And now if I say Java version, hopefully it should say 11. See this? Right now, since I'm on 11, before I go anywhere, let me make sure Saujanya is getting what she needs. So if I go to edit environment variable, if I go to Java home, you have to point this. Basically, you have to say new Saujanya over here. You have to add a name called Java home, and then give a value to wherever your Java is installed, the top level folder. So what is the top level folder? The top level folder will have bin under it. So if I open this folder here, it has a bin under it. See that, right? Are you with me, Saujanya, so far?
Yes.
Okay. Once you define this, make sure that you also go and update your path. And in this path, add, where is Java home? Here, add this %Java home %/bin. What is %Java home %? If I open up my command prompt and I do a echo %Java home %, it should give me whatever I've defined as the Java home. So it is basically saying, show me the environment variable value. The name of the environment variable is Java home. Clear so far? So
Yes.
define these two things. Define Java home, update your path, and point your path to Java home /bin. Okay, that should be enough for you. And the next thing that you're going to do is, where should I put this in the chat? Or here, I'll put it here for now. So go through this. What it's saying is the installation of Apache Maven is a simple process for extracting bin. Okay, but it should also give you a path of where to download it from, right? So download. And if you come here, you want to download the zip, this one. So I will copy this and I will put it over here for you. Okay. So that should bring the zip. and then you can just follow whatever this guy is saying over here. You're unzipping it. You don't have to run this unzip command. You can just right click and unzip it. And wherever you unzip it, that folder, you have to, this guy is not saying it, but what I usually like to do is I like to define an environment variable again called M2 home like this, and point to the folder where your Maven installation is. And usually I prefer to keep all my installations under a folder called installations. So do you want to do this while I'm here, or do you feel comfortable doing it by yourself later?
Anything is fine. So.
Okay, what about everybody else?
We will do it later.
Okay.
We will do it later.
Sure.
Yeah, we'll do it later.
Yeah, if you have any trouble, right, just let me know. But in general, what you need to understand is the M2 home is pointing to Apache Maven, and same way I'll go in path and I will add that path over here. Where is M2 home? I think I don't even have M2 home. Do you see M2 home anywhere? I have directly added it over here, but technically what this could have been is, it could have been %m2 home %/bin. That's so the direct path is what they are talking about over here. So just extract the zip file, add 2 variables, add a M2 home, add a Java home, and go and add those 2 things with /bin in the path. That's it, nothing else. Okay.
Quick question, Samir.
Yeah.
So I don't have much space in C where most of my installation so far has been done. So if I install this in D drive, will there be a conflict?
You can install it anywhere, but just update your path properly.
Okay.
Yeah, because this is not an install, right? This is just unzipping it. You can unzip wherever you want to unzip. But when you define your M2 home, make sure that you point it to your D drive's location.
Got it.
Okay. All right. So far, so clear, everybody?
Yes.
Okay, so let's go ahead and look at this particular critical piece that we were talking about. So what I did was initially, what was the command that I ran? Do you remember? Maven clean package, right?
Yes.
There is another command. And before that, what I want to do is, what was the name here? Com Lotus Ops. I want to take you to the repository over here, and I want to show you something. Com, is there anything called Lotus Ops? No, right? See, there's Lactus Pro, but there's no Lotus Ops here. Okay, there's a command that I'm going to run now. Maven clean install. You see the target folders are being deleted and recreated. So what it will do is it will create it here in target. It will take it from here and put it also in the local repository, which is .m2 repository. So now let's go here. You see here now, Lotus Ops in the .m2 repository. And you remember I was talking about the group ID. This is the time when the group ID is critical, because now it is com Lotus Ops app. See here, where is it? Com Lotus Ops app, and there'll be a parent project at that level, and all the others technically. So there's a parent project, there's a core, there's a service, there's a web app. Okay, if I open up parent project, there is 1.0, which is the group, the version number, and there's nothing because it is just a POM file. So if I open this POM file, it will be exactly the same as what the POM file that you saw earlier. See that? Because it's a POM file. But the other ones will also have a POM file and a jar file, and one of them will have a war file. So let's go back here. Let's open this. Let's go here. You see there's a POM file and there's also a jar file. Okay. Then I'll go up, go to service, go here. There's a jar file. And you see the naming convention, right? Artifact ID -version .packaging. Okay. I'm going to stop here because I'm not sure whether you've digested this fact, because if I jump on and talk about remote, you will get confused right now. I want to understand that you clearly understood what is happening over here. Two magic commands, right? Maven clean package, Maven clean install. Maven clean package generates the target file. But when we did Maven clean install, it did generate the target file, but it also placed it in the .m2 repository in your users folder. Did you get this point up until here?
Yes.
Okay. Jyoti, Mansa, Saujanya. Go ahead,
Yes,
please ask the question.
I think I got it.
Okay. Did you go through a Maven training earlier, or is this the first time?
First time.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay, there's a lot to cover in Maven, but as I told you, right, I don't know whether Saujanya, you heard it or not earlier before you joined, is I want to touch each and every tooling. So bear with me, don't ask too many questions right now, but we will come to each of the tool and deep dive into each of the tool. Right now, I want to show you the whole ecosystem. Okay, so today's session, what I want you to take with you is, there is a tool called Maven. It basically works with Java. And this is where I would have to define 11, because now I'm using Java 11, right? Even whoever is using 11, please define 11. Whoever is using 17, please change 11 to 17. And I should be able to install this. So it is compiling with Java 11 now. And then it'll package and then install. Okay. Let's go to remote now. What I'm doing here is I'm compiling the project, I'm packaging the project, and I'm putting it into my local repository. What if I want to deliver this to production? Okay. In the older world, what used to happen is somebody would compile it, create the final package, give it to the operations team, give it to the ops team. This guy is developer. He would generate the jar file, war file, ER file, whatever it is, give it to ops team. Ops team would take it and put it onto the server and restart the server. And then the application is running for him. Okay, that's what people used to do. But now that's not a good practice, right? People are taking it and putting it from the local machine and giving it to you. That's not a good practice. So what came out is, we want to have a common repository where all of these artifacts could go. The operational team or the ops team is going to take from here, and then they will deliver it to production. So this remote repository is exactly same as local repository, but it's a place where more than one developers could coordinate. I'm actually lying, but I want to make things clear to you. That's why I'm lying. But first, I want you to tell me that you understood what I'm telling over here. You remember we talked about GitHub, right? It's one place where we are multiple developers who are getting to collaborate. You remember that story we talked about the first day? Everybody used to do the development on their own machine, and then they used to go give it to the lead, and the lead would merge things together and put it onto the server. You remember that story, right?
Yes.
This is a similar story. You're generating a repository and a developer would give it to ops. So let's say Romana is giving to ops. I'm generating my artifact and I'm giving it to ops. Same way Mansa, Jyoti, and Saujanya are doing it. So imagine what kind of a pain that this ops guy has to go through to coordinate with all of them. Instead of that, what ops is saying is, okay, you guys develop it and put it over here. I will take it from this common place. I don't have to go to each one of you to ask for it. Do you understand this story? This is nothing technical, right? This is just a concept. Do you understand the concept?
Right.
Okay.
Yes, then what is the purpose of having local repository? Directly in the target, we can keep it in that, right?
No, I will come to that. The purpose of local repository is here. Let's say we have this project, correct? Which has three artifacts, technically core, service, and web app that is being generated. The other one is the POM file, so you can ignore. There are three important artifacts that are being created. Assume for a moment, I will do it here. Assume for a moment you are generating a framework code. Framework generate a jar file, and then you have multiple connect projects over here. All of them you want to use that common code. All of them you want to use the common code. Where will this jar that is generated be located? Because you're first building this, and then you're going and building this, and then you're building this. There could be multiple level of dependency. And then you're having another project. So for example, for Jyoti, right? Jyoti, I think you know there is a connect framework, there's a connect monolith, there's a connect microservices.
Yes, connect
right?
clients monolith.
Exactly. So each one of them is a repository by itself. It is not a multi-module that we're talking about. Multi-module is where all the modules are in the same repository. That's not the case over here. The case is this project is a common project that is being used by multiple repositories. So when you do a build, this repository, even in your local, it has to reside somewhere, right? Imagine you had two repositories. One is connect. I don't want to call it as connect, but let's call it as Maven 1 and Maven 2, two different repositories. And Maven 2 depends on Maven 1. You know what? Let's do that. This is a good question that you asked. Let's do it. So if I go here, see, Samir, where are you? Where are my projects? B drive. Okay, here. I have this sandbox, right, called Maven. I will create another one called Maven 2. Okay, Maven 2, and I'll copy. Just one of them is enough for me, actually. So I don't need all of this. I'm just trying to create something quickly for you. So I will cut this out. I'll paste this over here. I'll get rid of these guys. I'm just creating a single module project. That's what I'm trying to do. Okay. So I'm having a source. I'm having git ignore, and I'm having a POM. So I'll open up the POM. I don't need to have any parent because it's a single module project. I will call it as com Lotus of app only, but I will call this as, let's say, core. I'll call this as what should I call this as? Lotus. I'll just put some name. And this Lotus depends on the core artifact that is created over here. The core artifact that is created over here. So what I need is, I need the coordinates of this. The coordinates of this is group ID, artifact ID, and the version number. I'll copy this from here, and I will put a dependency over here. And this is a very important place. The whole reason that I'm showing you this is because I wanted to talk about dependency anyway. So you'll define dependencies, and you'll say dependency, and you'll add this over here. Now what I will do is, I will go ahead in the local repository, C users .m2 repository com. So the Lotus ops, which is there, right? I will just put underscore over here. That means I've deleted it. Okay. Assume that I've deleted it. Now what I want to do is, I have already added the dependency of this com Lotus ops app core 10 snapshot over here. I'm trying to do a build for that guy, build for this new project, Maven 2 project. And the artifact ID I want to change. I think I've already changed it to Lotus, so that's good. I'm going to open up git bash over here, and I'll say Maven clean package. Let's see what happens. Can you read what's happening? This is the error that you're going to see many times in Connect also, Jyoti. So it's a very important error. It says could not resolve dependency for project com Lotus ops app Lotus jar. So this is my project that I'm building. could not find artifact com lotus ops app core jar 1.0. What I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly go here and I'm going to remove this little thing over here. So in my local, I've removed this. I'm going to rebuild this. Let's see what happens this time. It says compilation fail. Target is 1.5 no longer supported. Hold on. Did that? Okay, that build which we had done was for Java 8 probably. So let me run this again for Java 11. And let me make sure. Oh, hold on. I just hope there is no source. Okay, there's no source over here. That's good. Okay. I shouldn't have seen this error. Okay, this is Maven 2. Oh, I need the additional parameters which this guy has. Let me pick up from here. Because these properties are missing, right? Those properties are required. So I'll just put this property over here. So I say that I want to build with Java 11, otherwise it builds with 5 by default. So I will run this again. And it says package JUnit. So now all these errors are good errors, okay? So what it says is package org JUnit does not exist. So where is org JUnit coming from earlier? It was coming from this dependency. So it requires this dependency also. So what I'll take is I'll copy this dependency from here and I'll put it over here. Now, if I go and compile this time, there should not be any errors unless I've done something wrong. See that? So Mansa was the one who asked me, right, earlier?
Yes,
Why?
yes,
Yeah. So notice that if I had to keep it in target folder, there was no way for this guy, this new project, to get that dependency. The whole world of Maven revolves around dependency. And that's where I wanted to come to. And that's the reason why I rebuilt this project for you. This project is saying, I depend on JUnit. So I have some classes that will use some packages from JUnit. This is a third-party dependency, right? We have not built this. We are getting it from the external world. The external world is Maven Central. So I'll have to define this project a little bit more. So first of all, let me clear this thing out from here. Oh, what happened? I don't know what happened, but anyway, local project repository, local repository, remote repository, right? Remote repositories, there could be two types: remote internal repository, remote external repository, or remote external repository is also called Maven Central. There could be many different. That's why, what happened? Shoot. I think I pressed something and the font changed. Okay, somebody tell me, what is this? Local repo. And in remote, there are two. One is the remote internal repository. When we call it as remote repository only, but just for you, I'm seeing it as remote external repository. So what I will do, the best thing what I'll do is this. I will draw it here so that it becomes a little clear. And then you have a remote external repository. And both of these are on your local machine. This one is in your organization. This one is outside your organization. So if I say your laptop, your organization, usually a tool like JFrog Artifactory will have a proxy to this. So you as a user will never know there's an external repository, because as I told you, there can be more than one external repository, right? So I will put a star over here to indicate this is more than one. Or I'll put a star over here. When you ask for a dependency, for example, I asked over here for JUnit, correct? The JUnit for me was brought in our case was brought from external. In our case, okay, how does my local know to get the external dependency from external? Is this a very complex diagram for you to digest? I'm trying to keep it as simple as possible. You know that I added this JUnit dependency, right? This JUnit dependency was not created by us. This one, was created by us. And that's why when I did a Maven clean install, it got installed in the local repository and it was brought to me by that virtue. But JUnit was never created by me. For example, let me show you. So what is that? JUnit, right? So there will be a JUnit folder over here. I'm just going to delete the whole folder. The folder is gone, right? And now if I go and run this command, let's see if the JUnit comes back. See, it brought JUnit and it says from where it brought in. See that repo.maven.apache. And you see there should be JUnit here. See that? It brought JUnit 4.11, this one. How did it bring it? Don't you think you should ask me that question?
Yeah, I see a remote repository file over there.
Where do you see that?
Back there on top.
Well, I mean, this was fetched, right? But where is it? How does it know from where to get it? Yeah, the way it knows is if you go to, so first of all, let me go to my environment variable to figure out where my Maven is installed. So I can take you there. So for example, M2 home, right? This is where my Maven is installed. So you can do the same thing on your machines, okay? And this is the best way to learn. So I will go in here. You see there's a conf folder over here. Open up this settings.xml file and search for repo. Come on. So this is the default file. Okay. So this is the default file where it will go to, by default, it will go to this location, https repo.maven.apache.org. That's what it is. I don't think so they have this defined over here, but this guy is being brought in from this XSD. So if you really want to figure it out, you can go to this XSD and see if this is the parent XSD. That path should be defined somewhere. It'll not just magically come, but I can tell you for sure, for us, this is what the file is. If I have to change from where the repository is being fetched, this is the place where I have to come and change it. So if you want, go through this whole thing. I mean, we will touch it as we deep dive. We will go through it, the settings file, how to change it, how to download everything from our own repository instead of going to Maven Central. We will see all of that. But for now, so you see this, there's a mirror that we can define. If we define this mirror, it'll never go to Maven Central. It'll always go to our repository. So I will have to first create a repository. We don't have it at the moment, remote repository. Okay, there's a lot of configuration over here. So Jyoti, in your world, right, you would see that you're going to JFrog. So how does it go to JFrog? You might want to ask. There will be a settings file. So if you work with Pratap and tell him, Pratap, can you show me the settings file where we are connecting to JFrog? He should be able to show you that. Okay.
I will ask.
Okay. So far, let's not complicate it. This diagram, is that clear to you? This is where the target folder is. This is where your .m2 is repository is in your user folder. This we have not seen yet. In your world, it is JFrog, Jyoti. So JFrog is a remote repository within the organization. And when you go out, there are multiple remote repositories. For example, if you go to Maven Central, let's quickly search for something here. So say, for example, you're searching for some dependency which you want to use from external world. And I will call it as, let's say, Spring Core Maven repo. I want to know what is the coordinates for it, group ID, artifact ID, and the version number. So I click on this. This is where the Maven repository is. And if you see here, there are so many remote repositories. There's a JBoss repository. There's a Spring Milestone repository. There's a Spring plugin repository. There are so many repositories, right? And there's a central repository. This is the central repository. The path that you saw earlier over here, repo.maven.apache.org, that's what it is. So here, when you come in, it tells you these are the different versions that are available. You can pick up which version you want. And this is where you get the coordinates, the group ID, artifact ID, and the version number. This is one of the most important concept in Maven, that it gives you a way to add a dependency, but it doesn't end here, right? It doesn't end here. Let's pick up a little complicated repository or dependency. Let's call it a Spring, let's say web. Let's pick up Spring Web. When I pick up Spring Web as a dependency, it just doesn't bring me this dependency. Along with this, it also brings transitively Spring Beans for me and Spring Core for me. That is the beauty. If you have to take anything today from the whole session that I've taken, you have to take this concept that Spring brings in most of the dependencies for you transitively. In the world of Ant, if you needed this dependency and this dependency and this dependency, you had to add 3 entries to ask for all of those dependencies separately. And many a times people would get into trouble because they would not use the right versions that do not conflict with each other. With Maven saw that problem. And Maven said, yes, there's a problem. Developers do not always know which version they want. So why don't we just bring everything? For example, Spring Web depends on this. Spring Beans might be depending on something else. Let's see what it depends on. Spring Bean depends on Core, and Spring Core, I don't think it depends on anything else. So it'll bring all of this, it'll resolve. Well, it depends on JCL, you see that? So it'll bring also JCL. And we will see a dependency tree command actually, and JCL is the lowest most live. But as soon as you add Spring Web, it automatically brings all of these dependencies for you. That is the beauty of Maven. Are you understanding? Are you confused? It's okay to be confused, but you need to understand there are some dependencies. There's some Java project that is written by outside world. In Java, you don't write all the code, right? You borrow some of the code. This is what I'm talking about. You can borrow code from outside world using coordinates, which is group ID, artifact ID, and the version number. If you understand this much, I think we are good to move forward. Mansa and Mana.
So
Yeah.
Samir,
Yeah.
both these repositories, local remote repository as well as central repository are connected to the local repository via settings.xml file.
It is not located, it is not linked to local repository at all. There's no straight relationship. The only relationship is you have your project, you add some dependencies over here that you need, right? So it's basically more than one dependency that you put in your project, in your POM file. In your POM file, you define dependency. For example, here there is one dependency, here there's another dependency. What Maven does first is, Maven first goes and checks if that dependency exists in your local repository. If it exists in your local repository, the exact same coordinate, exact same group ID, exact same artifact ID, and exact same version, it says, okay, great, it's satisfied, dependency is satisfied. Like what we did for JUnit, right? We deleted JUnit and it brought JUnit, you remember? If it does not exist, it goes and consults the settings.xml file. In our case, the settings.xml file is the default settings.xml file, which tells it that you should go directly to the remote repository. Okay. So it goes directly to the remote repository, brings it and puts it over here. So this, you can consider it as a cache. It's a cache because you don't want to go to remote every single time. If you have already fetched it once, you don't want to go to the remote repository again. Do you get it?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, don't literally go with this line that I have drawn. The only thing that I'm trying to show with this line is your dependencies are being fetched. Your dependencies are being fetched from remote repository by default. You have a way to tell it, don't go to this remote, always mirror out from here. So there is a concept that we will learn. The concept is called mirror. So if we define a mirror in our settings file, which is over here, if you see, there should be a mirror here. If we define a mirror and we say, don't go here, always go through this. That means all of your requests are going to be, it'll try to resolve from here. And if this guy has defined a proxy to go to multiple externals and it's able to resolve from any one of those externals, it'll bring that dependency, it'll give it to your local repository, and that's how the dependency will be satisfied. A very complex problem to really draw it out, but I'm trying to do it as simple as possible for you so that you don't get confused, because you'll find several people who will not know what a local repository, remote repository, and external repository is, even if they have been working with Maven. So you should feel lucky that you're at least getting to see this firsthand, the whole picture. Okay, more questions, please.
Yes, Amir. We got the flow, right? End-to-end flow, and how Maven is smartly resolving whether it is in internal dependency or external dependency, right? Now, what I still couldn't figure out is back to Mansa's question where she said why we need a local repository. So so quick question. So you executed two commands, right? Maven clean package and then Maven install, right? Maven clean package will create whatever the additional files within your.
1 minute, hold on. Yeah, tell me, Ravana.
Yeah.
So let me answer the question before you ask. As I said, right, Maven clean packages your folder and keeps it in target folder. Maven clean install takes it from the target folder and puts it into a local repository. That's where what I did was I created two projects for you, Maven and Maven 2. From Maven 1, I did a Maven clean install and it puts it up into the local repository. Okay, it put up into a local repository. Then you remember I went in and I commented out that Lotus ops folder in local repository. And I tried to build Maven 2. Maven 2 was not able to get the core dependency.
Correct. Now, question is, so So what gets stored in the local repository is in a certain structure, which you might have defined in the form file, com, lotus, or app. That is how the internal dependencies are being resolved by going to that location in the local repository. My question is, why do we need a separate local repository when you can have that same structure when you do the theme package itself within your local? I'm not getting the right.
No, where? No. Here's the picture. Where? If not in local repository, where else?
Project local repository.
Yeah, but then project local is each one has a project local, right? Maven repository has a project local, and Maven 2 also has a project local. So Maven 2, how will it know that it has to go to Maven's project local and pick it up from the target folder? It's the same. It's the same spoke thing that I talked about earlier, right? Multiple developers are doing something. If this developer doesn't want to go to the check with other developer, what they always do is they always put it into one common place. Instead of developer, this is repositories. You have a Maven repository, you have a Maven 2 repository. If Maven repository does a Maven clean package, the jar has been created, the core jar has been created and kept into the target folder over here. And then you go and do a Maven clean install over here, which depends on the core dependency from this project. How will it know it has to go to this particular folder over here? The M2 is a common for everyone. Everybody knows that's a common folder. But how will this guy know that it should pick up the dependency from here? Are you understanding or not? No, I mean it's okay that you don't understand, but please feel free to ask me.
So my only confusion, or rather a question, is why can't the folder structure that is maintained for individual project within the local repository, why can't it be maintained within the project local repository and eliminate the need for local repository? Again, I think I'm getting too much into it, so I'll stop here. Probably.
No, don't stop. Here are the two repositories. Maven and Maven 2 are two separate repositories. My question is, in Maven 2, I have added a dependency on core. And the only dependency I've mentioned is group ID, artifact ID, and the version number. If the way you're saying it right, probably I should also have a configuration called folder over here, which will tell the folder is Maven folder at the same location. Then it is true. Then what you're saying is right. But there's no concept as this.
Okay.
There's never a concept as internal dependency versus external dependency. If you look at them, they're exactly the same. The only thing that you see over here is scope test. That means this dependency should not get bundled in the final, which we've not even talked yet. We will talk about it.
Got it. But just to maintain the consistency of how it works. Yeah.
So eventually, this Maven and Maven 2 that you had in your local, that may not even be yours. There might be a different developer altogether who has a brand new repository over here, which depends on the changes that you do, because you're a framework developer. You develop frameworks which multiple projects use. So they are not going to come and, from that perspective, they are not going to come and pick it up from your local repository. Correct?
Yep.
The same thing as what you're talking about your laptop, right? You're saying there are two folders, they should just pick from each other. Why they have to take from local? That same concept, bubble it up a little bit. There are multiple developers. The developers are not going to come and pick from your local. The local repository is only for cache, to make things faster. Otherwise, everybody should go to remote. So that's how the expectation is the packages that you've done, you're going to expose it to remote somehow, which we've not seen yet. And everybody pulls it from remote and they don't have to talk to each other. If it is there, if the coordinate is there, group ID, artifact ID, and the version number, they will pick it up from the remote. If it is not available in remote, then remote will go to each and every proxy that it has defined, external world, and try to see if the coordinates exist. If the coordinates do not exist, it will come and give an error to whoever was asking for it, saying, I was not able to find it. The same error that I showed you earlier at the local level. So it's the exact same concept that is being bubbled out for bigger picture. And that's exactly what I'm trying to get to. If you guys, this one session listen to it n number of times. If you understand this particular fundamental that I'm trying to teach you, at the lowest level, least common denominator, what happens? If you're able to figure that out, that same concept gets bubbled up bigger and bigger. Many a times what people do is they go at the top level and try to understand what is happening over here. They never understand the concept. My always a recommendation would be come to the lowest common denominator and capture it here. Understand the fundamental. That's the same concept that happens. First, it was your folder locally. You understood the concept. Then it becomes multiple developers. You understood the concept. Then there are multiple teams. You understood the concept. You getting me? And this is not only about Maven, okay? In general, any technology you pick up, you have to bring it down to the lowest common denominator to capture it, to really understand the fundamentals. I hope today's session was informative and you would really spend some time to understand, because we haven't covered Maven everything. There's a lot more to cover. There's a very critical piece that I have to talk about is Maven plugins, which you can probably do it on Wednesday. So Maven plugins. Okay, I will stop the recording. You guys can ask me questions now.